Good morning. Inspector Deal here. I'm a retired fire inspector from the City of Houston Fire Department. My email address is dealsconsulting, D-David, D-E-A-L-S consulting @gmail.com. I have a website with online classes. I have actually 15 services there. You can go to that at dealsconsulting.com. My phone number is 713-253-4106. I want to talk to you a few minutes about reacting to fire emergencies. I want to give you some basic information. For the specific information for your local area, you need to contact your fire authority having jurisdiction, city, government, state, county. The fire jurisdiction for your building or your area. You can get the specifics from them. My intent here is not to contradict what they tell you, but to work along with them to help you not have a devastating fire. Just a little information about myself. I'm 70 years old. I'm a great-grandpa now. So hopefully all this will come out correctly. If I confuse you, you can send me an email or give me a call. I retired from the Houston Fire Department after 37 years of service in 2011. And I fought fire at the fire station and rode on ambulances for 4 years. It's not a very long time, but I was in a what we call a hot area that made a lot of fires and a lot of fatalities. I have found 15 people that have died in fire. 7 were kids. Those are the worst ones. And just a little point here is that where the kids died, there was nobody at home over 10 years old. The point being, you just can't leave your kids. What kind of parents leave their kids? Good parents. They just don't think about it. They never had a fire before or had a child perish in a fire. They did not pre-fire plan, which is normal. Nobody was at home over 10 years old, and there were no smoke detectors in the residence. You put smoke detectors in there, even though nobody's at home. You put them in every room except for where they cause nuisance alarms. The kids hear them. If you pre-fire plan, they'll know what to do, and we don't have 7 kids that's died. That's very typical. I spent 3 years in fire inspection out in the industry, and then I spent most of my time, about 80% of my time, inspecting high-rise and mid-rise buildings. I've been teaching for 41 years, and I'm not smart. It took me 8 years to get through 6 grades of elementary school. I'm just overexperienced. For 41 years, I've been teaching. I have an open mind. I think about this stuff all the time. Always have an ear out to learn something new. What I basically teach is not my information, but I teach in the city of Houston what the city fire code says. I also teach fire history. And in fires, if you study them, you can see what kills people. You can teach the opposite. That's what I do. I teach the opposite of what kills people in fires in days past. I teach the opposite of what burns up buildings because everybody burns a building up the same way. It's called lack of knowledge or information or proper information. And now that we have sprinklers in buildings everywhere, I teach what causes floods in buildings because of the sprinkler water. Now, when the sprinklers control the fire or extinguish it, the water is not your friend. The fire damage is 50 times worse. The water damage from the sprinklers are 50 times worse than the fire damage, building engineers tell me. So I learn stuff every single week. I change my stuff all the time. I changed some stuff this morning to make it more correct or to correct my mistakes. But this class is for people that are teachable, that have an open mind. And If you allow me to, I'll speak as though we've been best friends for 25 years, very blunt and to the point where there's no room for rationalization or interpretation. Now, you do not want to be trained about what to do when there's a fire or reacting to a fire. You want to be properly trained. There's a lot of voices out there, and it's hard to find somebody that teaches the correct information. It's kind of like finding a good dentist or a good mechanic or a good doctor. It's hard to do, but those are the ones that will cause you the least pain and suffering. But there's a lot of information out there that's not good. You can get the wrong information from fire inspectors. You can surely get the wrong information from people on the fire trucks because they don't know what the fire marshal's office teaches to people in the buildings. The fire marshal's office, many times, and the people at the fire station do not communicate with each other. It's called the government, FBI, CIA, Department of Justice. Now, if you report a fire emergency or you react appropriately during a fire emergency, normal people are going to have trouble with you because you didn't do what they think that you should have done. And normal, when it comes to reacting normally when there's a fire, is bad because we're born to do it backwards in case of fire emergencies. And what I've studied in fires in days past, it's the same old thing over and over and over. Primarily, people do not call the fire department immediately when there's a fire emergency. They think they would, they just don't do it. We actually do it backwards. I think we're bent backwards from birth. When there's a fire, we either run or we try to put it out, and nobody calls the fire department immediately. Now, this is the biggest killer. 41 years I've basically been teaching people in high-rise and mid-rise and low-rise buildings in the city of Houston and in Dallas and in Florida and in West Virginia and in Washington, D.C. I've taught some there. The biggest killer is delay of alarm. That's the time when you have a fire emergency that you know about, and the time that's wasted between then, or lapses between then and when you contact the fire department. Delay of alarm is the biggest killer. We'll do another video on that, but that's why smoke detectors are so good, because there is no delay. They go off immediately. Now, basically speaking, we probably do best if the fire department and the building manager knows immediately about the fire emergency. So you may want to look at it this way. In my classes, I teach people to be the fire department and the building manager's ears and nose and eyes extended. Okay? So people have a hard time with that. First of all, if you'll call the fire department when you're supposed to, everybody's going to have a problem with you because everybody has the wrong information. That's been my understanding and my experience. Well, why don't people call the fire department? Well, the public is scared of the fire department. They're scared that they're going to, they're just scared of them to come out there on a 40 to 60,000 pound fire truck and making all this noise. And why don't people call the fire department? They're just public servants. We have 4,000 firefighters in the city of Houston, and their bosses is the 2.1 million people that pay taxes. And you got to be nice to the boss. Okay? And they're afraid that they're going to receive a citation for calling the fire department. You don't get in trouble for calling in fire emergencies. You get in trouble for not calling in fire emergencies. It's called accountability, especially if there's a death or a devastating fire. They think they're going to be given a citation. They think they're going to be accused of calling in a false alarm. What if the fire truck has a wreck coming over here and it's not burning? Or the alarm turns out to not be a fire? What if somebody else needs them, like at the elementary school, but they can't go there down the street because they're here? But the main reason people don't call the fire department, my understanding is that people don't want anybody talking about them. You know, if you call the fire department, when somebody said they smell smoke and there's no fire, or the fire alarm goes off and there's no fire, then everybody that didn't call are going to say, who called the fire department? Kind of like that. Like, what idiot called the fire department over here for nothing? And then they'll talk about you. Did you hear about stupid? Call the whole fire department over here for nothing. In our city, you get one truck for a fire alarm. But if you smell smoke or you report smoke in a high-rise or mid-rise building, since we've had deaths, they send 13 trucks. 13 trucks looks like 30 trucks, especially at night. Did you hear about stupid? Call the whole fire department over there. And then somebody will say, yeah, my brother-in-law's a firefighter. They're going to write them a citation. No, they're not, rubbernecker. That's rubbernecker talk. You don't get in trouble for calling the fire department. You get in trouble for not calling the fire department. You are prepaying the fire department to serve you during a fire emergency. You see, people don't call the fire department, so it's so bad and it causes so many devastating fires. In our city, probably like in most cities, in 1977, the fire alarm system in your building had to be hooked up to had to go directly from the fire alarm panel in your building to a UL listed monitoring service, and the law required them to call the fire department. So when the alarm goes off, does that mean the fire department's coming? No, the fire alarm system can be broke. You want 41 years of stories about fire drills where the fire alarm system doesn't work? The only way you can be sure the fire department's called, the only way you can save lives is that you've got to call the fire department wherever you go the rest of your life when there's a fire emergency. So in 1981, they put sprinklers in buildings here in the city of Houston, in high-rise buildings. And when the sprinkler head flows water, the fire alarm goes off, the monitoring service is supposed to be called, and they in turn will call the fire department and they will send one truck because it's called an automatic alarm. Okay? 2017 in the city of Houston, since we had a death of 3 people in a mid-rise atrium building, office building, if you will. In 2005, we now have sprinklers that are retroactive in buildings. If you have a building, you had to have it 100% sprinkled by 2017. There was a 12-year grace period. Now, we're talking about calling in unwanted fires and fire alarms. We're not talking about calling in fire alarms for fire alarm testing, for fire drills. We're not talking about construction, doing cutting and welding, or doing roofing operations, which you will smell the tar burning on the roof. We're talking about unwanted fires and fire alarms. We're not talking about the smoke that comes out of the diesel generator, or when the building management turns on the heater the first time. Those are false alarms. You're driving the truck unless it's burning. But the building manager, property manager, and building owner should tell you when they're going to be doing something that could cause you to think the building is burning when it's not. And we'll do a whole video on false alarms later. When you call the fire department, people don't know how to call the fire department. They call and tell them what their name is, which the fire department don't care, and how long they've been working there, and who they are. And what the fire department wants to know first is they ask you, what is your emergency? It's called get to the point. There's an art to calling the fire department to report a fire emergency. They're going to say, first of all, if you dial 911 in your area, like we have here in Houston, Texas, you're going to go to a 911 operator. She's going to say, you want fire, police, or ambulance? She don't want to hear a story. She don't have any fire trucks or ambulances or police cars. Just answer the question. What is your emergency? I mean, she may say, you want the fire department, the police department, or you have an ambulance, or you want an ambulance. You say fire department. They answer the phone at the fire dispatcher's office and they say, what is your emergency? And get to the point. Answer the questions. Now, this line is recorded. So so it documents exactly when you called. So if you smelled smoke at 10:04 in the morning and you call the fire department at 10:05 in the morning, that's going to be documented, at the fire department. Nobody can accuse you of not calling the fire department, and then they will take over. So, first video in a string of many. I hope to do 41 years of information. I hope to do those and put those on YouTube. If you have any questions or comment, please contact me. It's been my pleasure. By the way, James Dobson says that everybody needs a best friend. The very best friend are the only ones that will tell you the truth. Number two, Mark Twain said, we know a lot of stuff. Do you know people that think they know everything? Or should we say, can you give me the names of people that don't think they know everything? Mark Twain said, we know a lot of stuff. We know so much stuff that we think we're on the verge of brilliant. Do you know people like that? Are you married to somebody that thinks that they're brilliant? Do you have kin folks that think that they're brilliant? You know people at work that think that they're brilliant? And half of these people are dumb as dirt. Mark Twain said, we know a lot of stuff. We know so much stuff that we think they're on the verge of brilliant. But the problem with most of the stuff we know is that it's just not so. Remember, at 14, 15, 16, we thought we knew everything. James Dobson says it's a miracle how when we get 23 or 24 years old, how our parents snap out of stupid. And at 70 years old, most of the stuff I thought I know, life has proven that I've had the wrong information. Anyway, we'll talk about that again. But remember, your primary job, responsibility actually, is to be the fire department and the building manager's ears and nose and eyes extended. It's been my pleasure.